Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read this paper. It's called Moral Progress for Better Apes, a commentary on Better Ape by Victor Kumar and Richard Campbell. I didn't realize it was a response paper by Joshua May. This is published in Biology and Philosophy. What year is this thing? This thing was 2023, so it's pretty recent stuff. As always, as my first time reading it, feel free to ask me questions along the way. I'm going to try to figure out what it says, why someone would spend all this time to write and get this thing published. And then if you stick around and chat, we have a emote review at the end. As always, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not endorsing it. We're just going to check it out. So here we go. And let me know if you have questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Introduction. But he's a sweet little otter, insists Judy Hopps, the bright and industrious rabbit in Zootopia, Disney's 2016 animated film. The mob boss, Mr. Big, calmly retorts, "My child, we may be evolved, but deep down we're still animals." The film portrays a metropolis in which a diversity of animals, both predators and prey, live together in relative harmony. There is no shortage of conflict and organized crime, but the animals have progressed beyond their natural predator-prey dynamic, or so it seems. Stereotypes and prejudices permeate Zootopia. Prey are presumed to be weak and unfit for roles that require strength and force, unlike predators who are thought to be naturally powerful, but also aggressive and impulsive. Judy is inspired by the society's progressive narrative and leaves her rural community for the great city of Zootopia to become the first bunny police officer. But her father insists that she carry fox spray because foxes are naturally dangerous. It's in their biology, says her mother. The film's takeaway message is that these prejudices are unfounded, yet it also recognizes that animals have differing natures which constrain their ability to live together peacefully. Kumar and Campbell's 2022 wonderfully ambitious book, A Better Ape, grapples with remarkably similar issues. You know, there's something about just being like, hey, this Disney kids film is just like your book that you probably spent years like slaving over. And not to say that Disney people didn't slave over that movie, but if you're going to do like academic work, it's like, you think like this is the way the world is, and then like the Zootopia people are like, well, we're going to tell a nice story. Now, the writers of Zootopia may be like super competent like writers, but it's just kind of funny. It's like, yeah, you've got this book you've like spent years on that's like about the nature of humanity, and then there's a kid story and they've got it. To be fair, a lot of kid stories have to do with morality and nature of humans, so it's like not entirely shocking, but it's a funny way to start off your paper, you know, like, hey, look at this kids movie, and yeah, your academic work is like that. Kumar and Campbell's 2022 wonderfully ambitious book, A Better Ape, grapples with remarkably similar issues, but as they relate to us Homo sapiens. The authors aim to develop a grand unifying view of human morality by taking seriously how our minds have been wrought by genetic and cultural evolution. Humans are, in short, highly social and intelligent apes who can live in large groups thanks to culture and morality. Unlike the animals of Zootopia, we are one species, but we are cultural primates and our tribes are diverse. How do you think the Brothers Grimm feel? Yeah, hashtag Disney steals. Yeah, that's what I started thinking about as I was saying. I was like, well, I shouldn't be unfair to like children's authors and like people also who write sort of mythologies that often get taught to kids. A lot of these things are attempting to communicate like deep stories about humanity and like things that you need to be worried about or wary of and stuff like that. So it's unfair that like I should be discounting children's authorship. But then again, a Disney movie, I don't know how deep that stuff goes. But then again, I haven't seen the movie Zootopia, so don't shoot me. I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay, indeed, unlike an animated cast of fictional characters, we don't just harbor prejudice towards outgroups. Humans kill, oppress, exploit, and disparage one another, other animals, and the environment. How can we live harmoniously when cultures around the world and within societies have such different beliefs, norms, practices, and institutions? Kumar and Campbell develop a view of human nature that helps illuminate a path towards progress. One of the book's many merits is its ability to draw on a range of cross-disciplinary evidence to not only improve our understanding of human morality, but of how it progresses and regresses in relation to divisive topics like wealth inequality, climate injustice, transphobia, and the mistreatment of animals on factory farms. This is just a side note here. there's different traditions, like religious traditions in different parts of the world. And not like here in the West, a lot of times you're supposed to not be gathering wealth if you're a religious figure. But I was going to some discussion, and it was like these religious people in, I think it was India, like whatever that particular one sect was, they were like vastly wealthy. And like that was normal. Like if you're religious, you get to be like super fucking wealthy. I was interested. It's an interesting thing because like in the Christian tradition, it's like, a rich man will get to heaven more easily than like a camel could pass through an eye of a needle. So it's like you're not going to get to heaven if you're rich. But like in other traditions, that's completely different. Energy says, I don't know where this paper is going. However, in general, I believe that capitalism encourages moral progress by giving people stake in the economic game, so to speak, which incentivizes people to desire stability and peace. Yes, I think it's good when people have an economic stake, but capitalism isn't the only way to do that. And secondly, if you're just working every day and you don't have capital to play with, you're not really a capitalist at that point because you're just, hand to mouth, like you're not doing it. So the problem is it's good for the people who have money. It's not good for the people who don't have extra capital to actually reinvest in society. So I don't really think of most of our current society as capitalist because you need to have capital. And most people, the money they get in is going out very quickly. So yes, but it's not that simple. Unreal Brian says, yes, prosperity gospel. Jesus says, get your bag, bitches. Exactly. So, yeah. Okay, author says, in what follows, I aim to clarify and scrutinize their evolutionary model of moral progress, which is rich and insightful, even if imperfect and incomplete. I raise 3 concerns that cut increasingly deeper into their theory, even if ultimately the cuts are all relatively shallow. Okay, so this person liked the overall argument, but thinks, there's a few sticking spots. Energy says, fair enough. Believe that cronyism is at least a significant factor. Not the only factor, of course, for inequality across access to capital. Yeah, I mean, that happens in all systems too. I mean, it's not like cronyism doesn't happen in socialist and communist and others areas too. So everyone got problems. Not to say that makes everyone equally good, but like, yes, there's definitely problems. Okay. 2, mechanisms of moral progress. To promote moral progress, commentators are prone to advocate for broad psychological changes such as more empathy or rationality, or general improvements in institutions like markets. But such suggestions are typically too broad to be precise, reliable, or informative. Greater intelligence often just allows people to better rationalize their existing moral views. Empathy frequently directs compassion towards the cutest animal and most affable people while ignoring other victims, and so on. Some theorists have drilled down a bit further. Peter Singer argues that moral progress typically involves, quote, expanding the moral circle, end quote, of concern to include non-whites, women, and even non-human animals. But the exact mechanism of progress is opaque. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the end goal of morality for humanity is going to be. So we don't actually know if what we're doing now is in that direction or maybe not necessarily bad, but just like, maybe neutral. In contrast, Kumar and Campbell drill down beyond common tropes about what's necessary for moral progress. The authors don't aim to provide a complete analysis of the mechanisms of moral change, just a sketch of the psychological and social contours regarding 2 common forms, greater inclusivity and equality. Their focus on these 2 forms makes room for a rich analysis of particulars, even if Western-centric cases of moral progress. Let's focus on a concrete example of greater inclusivity, their excellent and illuminating analysis of how anti-gay attitudes rapidly declined over the past 2 decades in the United States and similar countries. Unreal says, there's a lot I disagree with Peter Singer about, but I found his idea of expanding circle to be very helpful. Good. Yeah, I mean, not the worst idea. Like, it seems okay. I don't know much about this area, but yeah. You want to have an ever-increasing understanding of what morality can talk about and cover, and then, like, then you can decide. But you have to at least include people and things into that so that you can, like, analyze it. Because if you just exclude everything, that's not good either, because then you're not even asking the question. Okay. How did so many, although not all Americans, rapidly come to accept their fellow citizens who are gay? Part of the explanation is activism with powerful slogans like "love is love." But all social movements have their activists. Kumar and Campbell argue that what's special about this case is that sexual orientation is a relatively hidden trait that's randomly distributed throughout the population. Those seemingly unimportant facts facilitate significant social integration among gay and straight people. Straight people unwittingly came to love and respect friends, aunts, uncles, children, and pastors who are gay. Eventually, gay people began to come out to their loved ones and communities, and not just in big cities on the coasts, but in the deep south and across socioeconomic classes. Opponents of homosexuality were then faced with an inconsistency: acceptance of the gay friends and family they know and love, but condemnation of gay people as a class. So, like, what's this? This is the sneaker spy. You've got, like, the gays have infiltrated everywhere, and then they all came out at once, and you're like, we can't get rid of them. They're everywhere. I mean, this is kind of a funny theory. I mean, it may be right, but it's a little bit funny. It's like, okay, we've got, like, these gay clandestine people hiding, and it has a little bit of truth to it, but like that being in the closet. But it's like, and then they all came out at once, and it was like, oh, we can't like go against it because they're all over already. They missed the Will and Grace factor. True. The real straight dope. If people don't know the Will and Grace factor, here in the United States there was a TV show called Will and Grace, and I mean it was set in New York, but like it had gay people. Will was a gay character. Grace was not Benning, whatever. She was a woman. She wasn't gay, but they were best friends, and that was on major network TV, and it was it really normalized gay people in American media. Fake news. It was a whole woke brainwashing. Yeah, definitely banana. So yeah. So, but like, yeah, that was, I think the Will and Grace factor was actually significant in America. Like there was like a difference between people who had watched the show and people who had not watched the show. What the hell was that lady's name? It doesn't matter, but chat can find out if they care. I can see her face. Okay. Yeah. The inconsistency can be resolved in one of three ways. Either reject all gay people, including loved ones, accept all, or identify a morally relevant difference between the two cases. Love is powerful, it creates bonds and loyalty, so rejecting friends and family is difficult to rationalize. Love also opens our hearts and minds to the suffering of those with whom we deeply empathize. It makes salient that the struggles of one's own child or friend and their same-sex romances are just as real for all gay people, so it's difficult to rationalize a morally relevant difference. Deborah Messing, thank you, Dojo. Ultimately, love and consistency reasoning produce change in both individual attitudes and social structures. Same-sex marriage becomes legal, for example, and churches welcome gay ministers. These changes in society then make even more gay people comfortable coming out, which leads to more social learning and changed minds, which leads to even greater support for modifying social and political institutions, and so on, yielding a rational loop in cultural evolution. Yeah, Deborah Messing, thank you, straight dope. There was an incident, one of the guys I work with, and he brought this to my attention. He thought it was interesting. And he was saying that there was a gay basketball player, and, you know, it came out that he had been like sleeping with a bunch of people, and something happened in the news. And one of the, I think it was one of the commentators, it was like, started criticizing, oh, he's sleeping around with all these people in cities. And he said that the community just a few years ago was like, dude, you don't give any of the guys fucking a million women shit, and they are, for sleeping around. You're giving the gay guy shit for sleeping around. He's just like all the other people in the NBA, but he's gay. But like so what if he's sleeping around? And the commentator had to like walk it back. And the guy was saying to me, he's like, 10 years ago, this wouldn't have happened, but now the basketball like fandom, they're okay with gay people and gay basketball players. So yeah. Unreal says the 90s were a time for attractive redheads. There was also Gillian Anderson. Unreal, every day is a day for attractive redheads. Seriously. But yes, also Gillian Anderson. I need to go pull up my X-Files shirt. Yeah, also, what's it called? Spider-Man. Amen. Yeah, right. So, yeah, what was that? Energy says, I believe one can interpret the Bible in a pro-LGBT plus way, so we should acknowledge the history of religious bigotry. However, we shouldn't generalize against religious communities either. Yeah, I mean, again, the Bible can be done in one way. It can also be done in another. But so can a lot of other religions. So it's there's nothing inherently pro-Christian, anti-Christian in this discussion here. Yeah. And we've had varying levels of support from even the Pope in the past. I believe the current Pope might even be okay with civil unions, if not like proper marriage, but that's, very different from previous popes. So even the Catholic Church is revising their stance, I believe. At least a bit. Is there an ideal length for a Bible? I think it's 5 characters long, Orange. I mean, maybe I'm wrong in miscounting, but like 5 characters for Bible? Yeah. Like 1, 2, yeah. 5. Okay. In contrast, racial and ethnic identities are more visible, which has led to deeply ingrained segregation throughout society. Even where schools and workplaces are relatively integrated, key social networks remain segregated. In many diverse cities, people from all walks of life work in the same buildings, but go home to different neighborhoods with relatively homogeneous groups of friends, family, and congregations. What can we learn about moral progress generally? By examining the gay rights revolution and other cases, Kumar and Campbell argue that greater acceptance of oppressed groups typically proceeds through changes in 3 mutually reinforcing factors. 1. Acquisition of relevant non-moral knowledge, for example, awareness of suffering often gained through relationships with victims of oppression. 2. Changes in moral intuitions and reasoning, empathy and consistency reasoning. And 3. Corresponding changes in social structures and arrangements, for example, social integration, marriage equality. Each of these elements fits well with Kumar and Campbell's theory of the evolved moral mind developed in earlier parts of the book. We humans are intelligent and highly social apes who developed moral norms and reasoning to facilitate cooperation, which stabilizes large societies with well-defined social and political institutions. Greater inclusivity and equality arise from relationships and reasoning with others and codifying new values in the cultural norms and laws. Key to Kumar and Campbell's theory of moral progress is cultural evolution. Humans come equipped with brains primed to absorb culture and eventually to reflect on and revise existing norms. Compared to genetic evolution's glacial pace, cultural evolution is like a bullet train. Nevertheless, as Kumar and Campbell put it, quote, just because a train is cultural does not mean that it is optimal, end quote. Culture can change, but it's incremental and requires harnessing human nature to propel moral progress forward. For instance, human reasoning evolved to seek converts, not the truth, but human reasoning evolved to seek converts, not the truth, but we can harness this capacity to produce knowledge in diverse groups who engage in productive dialogue with one another. Similarly, although we're inclined to ignore or undermine concerns raised by outgroups, integrating others into the fold can foster greater inclusivity and equality. Kumar and Campbell's vision doesn't seem to be that of a melting pot in which minority groups assimilate to the dominant culture. Rather, their vision is Zootopian, multicultural societies in which groups maintain their identities but integrate in social roles and positions of power to produce norms and social institutions that work for everyone. How far can this model of moral progress take us? Below I aim to articulate 3 concerns. The factors other than social integration are more central to progress, that the model isn't necessarily progressive, and that inclusivity and equality conflict with other forms of progress. 0 pages. Yeah. I mean, depends what your Bible says, too. Dogo says, whatever. It's art, it's music, it's sport. It's not recognition of suffering until after familiarity. Yeah. But But I mean, that was the sort of like the clandestine thing, like the crypto, like in the closet gaze. Like everyone was in the closet and then like sprung it on everyone else. And then they couldn't go back because they found out like a bunch of people they knew were gay. Like it's a funny theory here that in some sense the homosexuality was so surprising to everyone else that they couldn't walk it back like that. They couldn't just be homophobic anymore because it was too many people. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that may be what's going to come, though, Dojo. It's that, everyone likes hip-hop music. Everyone the world over likes hip-hop music, but do they like black people the world over? Not everyone likes black people. There are fucking racists out there, and that's bad. But, like, do they want people who perform hip-hop, like, people from the Bronx, come down and play music? There was a movie, The Green Book, where Dr. Shirley he was a great pianist, and he went on a music tour down south back when it was a lot more dangerous to be a black man in the South, to spread culture, but also to show that black excellence and that sort of thing. So I mean, maybe there is also a model where people don't realize the roots of their art and their music and their sports have come from other cultures, and that's how it gets integrated. But yeah, then the suffering is still after familiarity. It's a good point, Dojo. But that's the question: is how effective is this model that's being put forth here? Female tennis was huge. Jazz was huge. Yeah. And has that actually, I don't know the history here. Has female tennis really helped integrate women into sports and women in the wider social system more generally? And same with jazz. The Green Book was terrible. Yeah, I mean, I like it for it being a New York story in some sense. I like Vigo. I like Ali. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like it, but I found it amusing, at least. I was in some museum not too long ago, and they had a Green Book, and it was funny because I wasn't in my area, but they had the Green Book open to a page which showed exactly where I'm from in Westchester, and it was the places that you could go if you were in my area of the world, because that's where I'm from originally. So yeah, I was like, hey, look, I know where that is. Oh, anyway, here we go. And tell me if these things did women in tennis actually change society significantly, or at least on some measures? I don't know. I don't know that history. Limits of integration. Key to Kumar and Campbell's model of moral progress is integration. They are inspired by Elizabeth Anderson's theory about how to promote racial equality and the imperative of integration. Kumar and Campbell expand the idea to greater integration among various ethnic groups, socioeconomic classes, and even countries in the United Nations. To promote inclusivity and equality, black and white people should live in the same neighborhoods. Sports fans worried about transgender athletes should get to know some of them. Poor women and people of color should occupy more positions of power, and poorer nations should have more prominent place at the table of international politics. Rob Halford, Metal Music. The actors are amazing, just meh movie. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, the movie could use a bit better writing, but it was okay. Okay. Without greater integration, concerns among the oppressed go unheard or receive little uptake. Moral intuitions and reasoning remain unaffected, and existing social institutions ossify. I like that word, ossify. I should use that more. Ossify. Kumar and Campbell are onto something, but I suspect integration in similar terms might not get to the bottom of what's at work here. Yeah, the problem is integration is a very slippery term. I use it in my epistemology, and it's a little bit difficult because integration into what, integration how, it's not so clear. The ire of integration. Of course, as Kumar and Campbell recognize, spatial integration and social proximity are neither necessary nor sufficient for moral progress. Episodes like the Me Too movement, which unfold primarily on the internet, show that proximity isn't necessary. The southern portion of the United States shows that proximity isn't sufficient. Black and white people interact with one another significantly more in Alabama than in California, yet racism and racial tensions are no less frequent in the former. As Tommy Shelby writes in response to Anderson's argument that racial justice requires integration, quote, two people can live in the same neighborhood, indeed they can live right next door to each other without forming social ties, end quote. Yeah, and that's entirely, I mean, if you're in, depending where you live, like when I left New York to go to college, I was a little bit shocked how segregated Boston was. Like Boston is not as segregated as it was when I was there, but like there was like the white parts of Boston were really fucking white, the black parts of Boston were really fucking black, but like in New York you still see people of different cultures, different skin tones all over the place, and that wasn't what I was used to when I got up to Boston, where it was a bit more segregated. And I was like, oh, I've heard about this, I didn't know it was the case. Banana says, new model, extegration. Status quo sucks, let's extegrate from them. Yeah. Energy says, in general, I'm not a fan of identity politics because I believe the best way to empower people who face disadvantages is by spotlighting their merits and not focusing on characteristics like race, gender, etc., which are irrelevant to their value as people. Yeah, I mean, that's the question. There is an argument about how good identity politics, or what are the merits of identity politics. And I don't know enough about it, but I've heard arguments against identity politics and some arguments for it, but I don't know. The Real Straight Dope says, Rob Halford coming out was a great shake-up in metal cause that's a very macho, heteronormative reinforced group that it really challenged their sense of masculinity and their own prejudice. Over the years, he had just become completely accepted and hero worshipped again. Cool. Except characteristics are relevant. People are too fast in bracketing them away. And that's the issue, is some people find it useful, other people don't. And it's like, I don't know what the most effective way about this stuff is. Not like, I don't have a sense of like how, like what's most important here in these areas, like political and social movements. I don't know. One of the interesting things here, at least on Twitch, was when they opened up tags. You used to not be able to make your own tags, like your little descriptive links about like what your stream was about. Or you would, then they changed it, and people got very angry because people were self-organizing around certain identity tags. And when Twitch tried to change that, it wasn't good because the community had self-formed around certain things. Now, was that identity politics or was that something else going on here? But I just remember the uproar and like, Twitch, you can't fuck with the tagging system. Ross says, let's just group everybody by booty size and call it a day. I mean, certain people are just going to be so much more massively well endowed than others that, I mean, I wouldn't want like to, that would just make some people just unbelievably at the top and everyone else just below. I don't know if that's a good idea, but believe me, I wouldn't mind getting a good look at that sort of society. Okay, even worse, increased integration might promote more exclusivist attitudes. Anti-immigration and populist sentiments are rising around the world, and many theorists argue that it's partially a response to increased immigration. A number of fascinating studies observe these trends experimentally, which fit well with sociological and political analyses suggesting that demographic change often increases in intergroup hostility and conflict. Yeah, I know, but like, Ross says maybe a flatter booty would be a sign of morality. So that would be like in ancient Greece, a smaller penis size meant you were like you had more blood for your brain. A big dick was like bad because it meant like, you'd get like lightheaded if you got a hard on or something. So yeah, like little dick, big brain, that was like good. So like a flatter booty would be a sign of like morality. I don't know. Perhaps. I don't see how Sir Mix-a-Lot could be wrong, though. He likes big butts, he cannot lie, and he values that. I just couldn't go against that moral authority. Dogra says, integration can backfire. I think that non-English speaking food delivery can cause fear and prejudice people. You don't always get a positive reaction from integration. That's why I believe art, music, sports are more important. Yeah. And I think that's part of what they were just saying here, is that actually interacting people on a surface level, and that's what you're saying, like there's other things to be done, does not inherently work. It's not just like it's gonna, oh, you see a black person, then all of a sudden you're gonna stop being racist. It's not how it goes. Yeah, so this is, demographic change often increases intergroup hostility and conflict. And that's, that I think that can definitely happen. Okay. Sir Lord Mix-a-Lot. Yes, exactly. A competing theory of moral progress might be better suited to explain the ire of integration. Alan Buchanan and Rachel Powell argue that inclusive moral progress tends to occur when people perceive little outgroup threat in the environment, such as reduced competition for resources and disease transmission. But inclusivity is adaptively plastic and can toggle off when people perceive greater outgroup threat, such as economic hardships perceived to be a result of increased immigration. In response, Kumar and Campbell might insist that proper integration can avoid intergroup conflict and competition. We just need role integration in which members of outgroups gain prominent standing and power. However, neither of these theories quite gets to the heart of the matter. It doesn't seem to be integration or reduced outgroup threat per se that does progressive work. The conditions of the interactions must allow group members to be heard, understood, and appreciated. Often reduced threat is explained by these conditions, not vice versa, which aren't guaranteed by integration either, spatial or otherwise. Consider the democratic integration that Kumar and Campbell suggest will help reduce oppression of marginalized groups, such as poor people, women and people of color. If members of these groups enjoy broader representation in institutional decision-making roles, will we really see durable reductions in wealth inequality, mass incarcerations, and the gendered wage gap? It depends. As Olufemi Taiwo has argued, contemporary identity politics can lead select minorities to occupy positions of power without resulting in an improvement in the conditions of the oppressed. Real change more often results from constructive politics that builds broad coalitions. Oppressed peoples must work together with members of dominant groups in legislative sessions, workplace conference rooms, school board meetings, and other facets of society. Without productive interactions, integration can easily intensify conflict, polarization, backlash, and gridlock, not to mention burdens of stress, alienation, and assimilation that fail disproportionately on integrated minorities. These considerations suggest that something else, something close to but distinct from integration, is the key to moral progress. And he says, to my understanding, in America, the gender wage gap is generally because of differences in career choices between men and women and not systematic discrimination, generally speaking. No, because women don't have opportunities to get the career choices. They are actively discouraged and not helped to get into higher paying career choices. So it's not like they chose badly. That's not the case. Yeah, like being a doctor versus being a female doctor. That's like grossly oversimplified for the problems we have here in America. It's like, yeah, okay, you're going to be a homemaker and that's a poor monetary decision. It's like, no, we just have systematically undervalued the work that's done to run a family as opposed to, work that's done in an office. So it's like, yeah, if you're going to say, all right, the choices the women make, it's like, well, who set up society to be that way? It's been this way for a long time. And it's not always like that it's not that people have the options or are encouraged or even told that certain jobs are available to them in our society. It's way more complicated than that. So it's like, you can't just be like, oh, they chose badly and it's their fault. No, it's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. So, yeah, it's very complicated how things got set up. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, yeah, it's good to get into this, but like there's a whole history of how different values and jobs get rewarded differently here. What's up, Dead the Wraith? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Give Dead the shout out. Our buddy Dead the Wraith is another streamer, and he's been streaming a bunch. So consistency is key, he's always saying. Got that in the title. But yeah, if you don't know Dead the Wraith, he's, again, not a spring chicken. He's even older than I am, which is impressive on Twitch. But he's got like good stories. He knows shit. Like, and he's gaming and he's chatting with chat and he's having a good time. So if you want to have some chill time, go ask him some stuff. You'll hear some like new perspectives on things. You definitely head over to Dead the Wraith. Good. I'm glad. Hope you're keeping warm and don't have too much shoveling left to do. Because I was at work today and we were still shoveling spots we hadn't gotten to. So yeah. But yep. Yeah. It's like the history of who gets to do what job here in the United States. It's there's a lot of old boys clubs and you're not allowed in if you don't look or sound or act like the people in the old boys clubs here. So it's ain't so clear. Banana says, we also see a higher proportion of women leaving certain professions even when the initial gender ratio is equal. Pay gap doesn't even capture that. Yep. Because, again, there's a lot of support for certain groups of people that don't exist for other groups of people. So, like, you might have, like, equal schooling and have opportunities to get into it, but then all of a sudden, like, say you want to have a kid, and they won't hire you because they know you're going to have a kid in a certain years. And that's when they want to get the work out of you. So you have to be like, oh yeah, it's against the law to discriminate against women and pregnant women. Yeah. So what? That still happens. And so the chance of you getting ahead in those jobs is much lower because they will discriminate against you because you're female and you might have a kid. Like, this happens. Douglas Venholm, the glass ceiling has become a glass floor. So, I don't know what that is, Dojo. But I mean, and not to make the IT Crowd. Okay. Yeah, I never watched that show. But it's part of the difficulty is that things are not so easy. Like, all around, of course. Okay. Beyond integration. The case of the gay rights revolution suggests that integration is helpful when parties on all sides feel heard, understood, and appreciated. What promotes such conditions? Here's a proposal. Mutual trust and respect. Easier said than done, my friend. Easier said than done. These are parts of the binding and collaborative attitudes that Kumar and Campbell identify early in their book as emotions. The author here calls them attitudes. Which form the first core of the moral mind that appears to have evolved genetically some 300,000 years ago. Now, I certainly regard reasoning as central to moral cognition, including moral progress. However, Kumar and Campbell are right that our moral reasoning is shaped by our nature as tribal apes who are more liable to appreciate reasons articulated by people we trust and respect and love and admire, etc. Unreal says, so I was once the grad student rep to a faculty search in a department that was mostly women. And it was the women who wouldn't hire a particular woman because they thought she was going to have kids. And also she was Muslim. One of many things that made me bitter about academia. Yep. Happens all the time. And it's like, oh, why didn't the woman get the job? Well, who knows exactly what it was, but it might not be it may not be a fair reason. So, yeah. Okay, continuing. To my mind, the author's mind, it is these sorts of attitudes and conditions conducive to them that enable other factors like moral reasoning to gain traction. Kumar and Campbell recognize this fact in some parts of the book, but it could play a more prominent role in their overall model of moral progress. Their social view of reasoning is well equipped to explain that our tribal minds are designed to dismiss the testimony and arguments of those we distrust and disrespect. We dig in our heels, automatically discount what opponents say, and look for holes in their ideas and arguments. Trust and respect aren't quite like sympathy, which can reflexively arise from witnessing the suffering of others, even strangers. More complex conditions in relationships are required, especially if such binding and collaborative attitudes are to be mutual. Consider two related conditions that plausibly foster mutual trust and respect. Where was I? Love and being a member of the same tribe. Each were arguably central to the rapid decline in anti-gay attitudes in America. Yeah, got a proper... Because homosexuality is relatively concealable and randomly distributed across demographic lines, nearly every group in the U.S. eventually learned that some of their beloved members are gay. Already, being a member of the tribe accorded trust and respect, among other relevant attitudes like loyalty and love. As Kumar and Campbell explained, these marginalized members of the community were then increasingly able to share the knowledge of their plight and of the happiness they experienced from their same-sex relationships, which bolstered consistency reasoning that justified acceptance. But imagine if gay people were not able to first become trusted, loved, and respected members of so many different communities. Their plight would have continued to have been ignored and dismissed, or the inconsistencies could have been resolved in the other direction. What this suggests is that something other than integration should be central to a model of moral progress for tribal apes like ourselves. Across moral tribes, we need to counter what Arthur Brooks calls a culture of contempt. More than that, in place of contempt, we need mutual trust and respect. Spatial and role integration might foster these attitudes under the right conditions, but neither is necessary or sufficient. I mean, again, this is making very big claims. How do you change anyone's mind? Seriously, how do you change people's minds? Jay Swole. Jay Swole 3. What's up, Minesweeper friends? What's up, Jay Swole? How's the sweeping? How'd everything go? What's up? How's sweeping today? What's going on? Jay Swole's a Minesweeper buddy. Welcome in. Hello, Raiders. How's it going? Let me give you a shout out. Fun, good times. There we go. Shout out to Jay Swole. There we go. I don't know. I probably don't have too many Minesweeper people in here at the moment. But if you were looking for some smart conversation while playing Minesweeper, go hang out with Jay Swole. Jay Swole, are you still trying to get like a PB? Because you were like, I saw the title was like PB streaming every day till I PB. Well, yeah. What's up? Get Jake to space. What's going on? Yes, you are doomed. Yeah, you're trapped. Because it's harder to like play sometimes while streaming, but like, yes, it's hard. Oh man. But yeah, if anyone doesn't know me, I'm Noah, Noger, No Gray, No Grayo, whatever you want to call me. I am the creator of MNSW.pro, Minesweeper Pro. So I have a little bit of notoriety in the Minesweeper community. I was streaming Minesweeper back during pandemic with the likes of Joe Villi and CJ from NJ and Kira and all that crew. So you might know me from the championship recently. You got to split. Be glad to stop by. Great stream. Thanks for stopping by. Real straight dope. Appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you, Vipers. That's my website, and you can play competitive Minesweeper on there. But yeah, so I am also a philosopher, and usually what I'm streaming nowadays is I read philosophy and try to explain it. We just chat about philosophical stuff. So this is a paper about how do you change hearts and minds? How do you get people to like stop being racist fuckheads? And yes, I curse. So we're discussing it, and yeah. So what was I gonna do? I was gonna do something, but I gave you a shout out. Yeah, and if you need to raid and run, please feel free to raid and run. But yeah, thank you for the raid, Jay Swole. Appreciate it. Are you leaning on the side, or you can or can't change minds? I'm on the side you can. It's just usually not worth your time. It's very hard to do. Now, this one here is on the society, social level. How do you set up society to be better? What can we do as a society to give more opportunity for people to stop being racist jerks and, you know, learn a bit better? And one of the interesting things here is that they've been saying that gay people in the United States somehow were able to change the hearts and minds because they were in the closet. Then all of a sudden, when it became okay to say that they were gay, or started to be okay to say that they were gay, they were already integrated into society. And that sort of sprung a trap on all the bigots that like they couldn't all of a sudden be like, all gay people are evil because they were already evenly distributed in society. I find this mechanism a little bit hilarious. It's probably shouldn't be that funny, but this is what I think. I still think it's a little funny, but like they're trying to figure out how can you actually get people to accept you and then accept you in spite of something they might have a bias for. I'm not aware of the podcast The Necessary Conversation. What is The Necessary Conversation? Yeah. I don't know. I'm not aware of a lot of things, by the way. I just sit around, worrying about dumb shit like Minesweeper and philosophy. But anyway, and so as always, feel free to ask questions, but I just read this and we chat. Viper says exposure matters. A person is a very different proposition than the idea of a person. It's true. It's true. Like dealing with people, you get more information. Like if you're just thinking about people, you make up whatever you want. But when you actually deal with people, then you get to find out, like you see their pain. You get to like see how they interact with things, how they're dealing with stuff. You get a lot more information and understanding about a person when you actually deal with them as opposed to on the internet in words or just like through a book or something. Casewell says, family, 2 parents, 2 kids. Kids are liberals and parents are Trump supporters, so they are not really changing the minds of the parents despite having a long relationship and all of reality. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're going to change everyone's mind. It's not like there's a surefire way. It's just that if someone is close enough to close enough to having their mind changed, then you can sway them sometimes. But if someone's so far gone, it's not happening. But like, if someone's willing to, listen to stuff and maybe have some of their ideas changed, then like, you can start. And then like, over time, people change too, but it can take a very long time. But like, yeah, that's interesting. So there is likely a point of no return. I'll say there's likely a point where it's just not worth your time anymore. Of course, some people lose their minds, but there's definitely a point at which it's not up to you to go try to change somebody. Because like, yeah, you might be able to like have some discussions and like talk something out, but it may take way too much time and effort on your part. You're not a therapist. And so like, yeah, there's more factors at work. Dogan says, to change your minds requires that you listen to people who think differently and start with genuine empathy, seek common agreement. Absolutely. And that's hard. But like I said, you might not have enough time, but I think it can be done. And again, some people, it's going to be too much time and effort for you, but like, that's not always going to be the case. Some people will be amenable to a discussion. Viper says, like, people in rural areas might hate non-white people, but people in NYC who have been exposed to non-whites hate everyone equally. No, we hate some people more, Vipers. Like, if you walk slowly in New York, we hate you more. Slow walkers suck. But like, yeah, it's not skin color based. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as you're walking too slow, we hate you. But like, you're right. It's not skin color based. That's true. Okay. Ethcree, what's up? Yeah, that's a common trope of every big city. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the distinction there. It irks me when in Madrid. Hi, yeah. And I really liked when I was in Madrid. It had a very New York-y feel too, so it was very cool. Okay. Oh, here we go. Consider a concrete example of how one woman abandoned a homophobic worldview among other deeply held beliefs without spatial or role integration. Megan Phelps Roper is a former member of the Westboro Baptist Church in Kansas, infamous for its vitriolic condemnations of homosexuality and protests at funerals of soldiers who died fighting for what this church regards as a morally bankrupt nation. Especially in the metro subway. Yeah. Dory says, also don't have a goal to change minds, but to understand. Yeah, if you go in there trying to change somebody, that person's probably going to react badly. Like, get the fuck away from me. Like, stop. Like, I'm not a bad person. Like, don't you try to change me. You're the bad person. But if you're going in there to discuss, at least, to understand what they're on about, people want to tell you what they're on about quite often. And then you have an opportunity to be like, well, what about this? What about that? I'm just trying to understand. Like, honestly understand. Okay. Phelps Roper credits her fundamental change of mind to interacting with people on Twitter who were kind and who respectfully engaged with her inflammatory tweets and provocative arguments. Eventually, she befriended some of these people she met on the internet, so her radical transformation wasn't driven by physical proximity to the out group, nor did she occupy new roles in their community, such as a fellow church member, classmate, sibling, or council member. She just developed relationships of mutual trust and respect across ideological lines. Of course, Phelps-Roper might be the exception. It is difficult to trust and respect people one regards as suspicious outsiders or haughty subordinates. Might greater trust and respect presuppose greater inclusivity or equality? The promise of integration is that it can sidestep this bootstrapping problem by creating mutual trust and respect where it is sorely missing, yet we've seen that integration can be ineffective or even backfire. Fortunately, conditions other than integration can avoid the bootstrapping problem. Here are 3 examples. Banana says, LGBT orgs have made the same argument. Some orgs encourage people to come out, especially family, because they believe it's a key factor in increasing overall LGBT support. Yeah, and this is a good point that there are multiple strategies that can work in different situations. So like it isn't only going to be like this one strategy is the best strategy across the board. It may be an overall strategy and like nation level thing where there's lots of people across society all like talking about something, but in any given spot that may not work so well for, those individuals. So like, yes, some people say come out because it'll work, but it may not be the case. Like there may be better ways to do things in other areas. Okay. So here's 3 examples. First is less polarizing media. Many commentators have recognized that the new digital media landscape has increased political tribalism and hostility. And remember, this is a 2023 paper. When did this come out? This is 2023. I don't know when in 2023. So this is even like it was written prior to whenever this came out. So maybe even 2021, 2022, and maybe 2023. So this is all like gotten worse since then. Like they're referencing a 2020 paper here. Part of the problem is that social media platforms permit misinformation, incentivized incendiary comment, and prop up echo chambers. As C.T. Nguyen has argued, the essence of echo chambers is that their members actively distrust sources of information from other tribes. C.T. Nguyen is a perennial favorite here on my channel and across Philosophy Twitch. Our buddy Barude is actually reading a book by C.T. Nguyen over on his channel. So if you like philosophy content, he's also a continental philosopher. He's working on the concept of charisma, but he's talking about CT's book on video games and agency and art. So if you're interested in more philosophy talk, and especially on these sorts of topics, Barude, go hit him up. So it says Fred Phelps had a direct line, but God is British and hates cigarettes. Yeah. I mean, we've got some crazy motherfuckers here in the US. We really do. Okay, people on the far right decry major newspapers as fake news factories, anti-vaxxers dismiss health authorities as corrupted by profit and ideology, and so on. The lack of trust and respect is mutual, as these skeptics are written off as idiotic or ignorant by so-called elites in science, journalism, and government. Thus, as Kumar and Campbell point out in their discussion of climate change denial, combating misinformation requires elites to treat skeptics with more respect. The point is well taken, but it applies well beyond climate injustice and can serve as an alternative to integration in these other contexts. Now, Phelps-Roper's transformation occurred largely on one of these modern media platforms, but she miraculously found herself in an unusual pocket of Twitter filled with kindness and respect. A second method for generating mutual trust and respect is civility. Confucian philosophers have long championed the importance of proper comportment, judicious choice of words, and appropriate tone of voice when interacting with others, precisely because it fosters goodwill. I'm like, these are all people I like. So this is a point made by Olberding. I also like this sort of point made by Olberding. I referenced her in my paper I got published last year. So like, I like this dude up here. I like all these references this person's using. So I like CT. I like Olberding. So I'm on board with the strategy this person is using to make their arguments, because they like the people I like. So that means I like them. Okay. Recall, for example, how Phelps-Roper's interlocutors used the old strategy of killing with kindness. Calls for civility and good manners can seem antiquated, but they are cultural innovations that have persisted for thousands of years in human societies for a reason. An evolutionary model of moral progress might treat practices of etiquette and civility as more central to inclusivity and equality as a directly prime binding and collaborative attitudes in humans. I mean, this is a little bit of a weak argument here. The calls for civility are stupid when the other side is dying. Like, so if people are like getting shot or thrown in jail, and then you're like, well, like, you're really bad, you're killing us and throwing us in jail. It's like, well, calm down. You have to be more civil. It's like, well, no, you're being abusive and that needs to get called out. Now, if you're having a discussion, yeah, shrieking doesn't work. And so you have to be a little bit more careful than this page right here made it. But like, yes, I agree with you have to find some civil way to talk about stuff. You have to, at least be able to start the discussion, assuming that the other person isn't doing it in bad faith and just like leading you on to fuck you over. So yeah. Okay. Of course, people of opposing moral tribes can display respect toward others without having any. Civility can be a thin veneer. Okay, so they're at least getting to this. Civility can be a thin veneer while contempt lies underneath. A third proposal that might avoid this problem is the development of epistemic virtues such as intellectual humility. Dojo says, streaking always works, a naked jog through the neighborhood. You'd think so. But, there's one guy who was at work, and he was like, he did one of these, won't someone please think of the children when discussing trans people? Because there was someone who, yes, they may have been trans, I don't know, it was his story, but like they were nuts. They were like nuts of, like probably schizophrenic, and like they were doing inappropriate things in a bathroom where there were kids, but that had nothing to do with the kids or them being trans. It was that they were schizophrenic and were having like some sort of break, and that was bad. But he was like, the trans people, and I was like, he was saying like, you don't want these people running around naked. I'm like, dude, that person's like got much more, like they've got other problems that has nothing to do with being trans. And it's like, yeah, like much more whatever there is going on, that like the two things aren't connected. So it's like, and I know you're joking, Dojo, but I was just thinking about this story where he's like, you can't have trans people, they're gonna like ruin the kids. It's like, no, and your only example is someone that has got much more, like they've got other serious problems going on. Much has nothing to do with trans. Your friend and I ran through sprinklers in Denver one night. Well, I'm sure that solved all the problems in Denver. Well, yeah, many more problems than like gay rights or trans rights or other stuff. If like you're really just taking off all your clothes and masturbating in a open public toilet stall. That was the story. He was like, you don't want that. I'm like, no, but no one wants that. Like, it has nothing to do with trans rights. Jerk. But you see, that guy at work, he don't like trans people, but he, at least you could discuss with. Like, he's wrong on his bigotry about trans people, but you could have a reasoned discussion with the man. So it's like, he wasn't the worst. Like, you could talk to him. You could be like, yeah, but like you have to separate out these things. Someone who is clearly having mental problems, it's not the same thing as being trans. It's just not. So it's like, you've got to, but like he couldn't separate that out, but I could discuss it with him. So, like he's not the worst guy. All right. Yeah. So integration will remain ineffective for people who are dogmatic and overconfident in their worldviews. Intellectual humility can open one's mind to greater inclusivity and equality without presupposing one already has those values. Genuine humility also makes one more liable to admit faults and forgive opponents, which is essential for repairing broken relationships between moral tribes. While civility can effectively maintain goodwill and prevent damaged relationships, it alone cannot fix them. Backwards-looking attitudes of forgiveness that let go of grudges are essential for relationship repair. Perhaps repair was less central to the gay rights revolution since relationships of love among family and community members were commonly present, though of course not always. In other cases of moral progress, however, relationships of mutual trust and respect among groups must be built or repaired, not taken for granted. Viper says, understanding foundational beliefs is key too. Most of the time, people try to demolish a belief as it shows the exterior without considering everything that supports it. This is one thing I find frustrating about trans activists. They compare their activism to gay activism without considering that concepts of sex are introduced at the preteen level, while concepts of gender are pre-language. I'm not saying they should give up their trying to persuade, but rather adjust their strategy accordingly. Recognize that it's more difficult for a person to give up their most foundational concept, mama and dada, that it is to sway them on sexual orientation. Not the same thing, dude and or dudette. Yeah, I mean, again, this is a question of what is the effective strategy here, because as like the authors here are saying, the gay rights revolution is not going to be the same as other revolutions. It's not going to work in the same way. So that's also going to be reflected in the rhetoric. It's like, do I know what the right strategy is? No, but like the point, it's a fair point. The strategy for convincing people is going to be different. Dojo loves nudity. Colorado Hot Springs diversity in body types, body positivity. Excellent. We like positivity here. Good. So yeah, it's like everyone is just a name on Twitch. You don't have like inherent genders, but like that's part of the issue is that people still gender themselves one way or the other. And so it's like the internet's a weird place, and the idea is like, okay, you're only competing in the world of ideas because everyone's just talking in text, but that's not, you still get a lot of baggage pulled in. So it's not just like, it's not that obvious. But yeah, I mean, I hope everyone is willing to speak, at least in chat. Okay, these are just a few proposals that might avoid bootstrapping problem by creating mutual trust and respect where it's absent. A virtue of these proposals is that they are compatible with integration but don't rely on this strategy, which is often infeasible. For instance, integration doesn't work well for farmed animals who can't live among but a fraction of humans or express knowledge of their suffering or wield political power to change the industries that torment them. Kumar and Campbell are surely right that our increasing isolation from animals on factory farms is a form of segregation that has led to moral regress on this issue. However, mechanisms other than integration are crucial for progress. Key behaviors to change are among humans themselves, namely how they vote with their ballots and with their forks. Banana says, have you tried being good? Have you gotten good yet? Yes, it's always a question. Have you tried not being a racist piece of shit? I don't know. No, I haven't. Okay, even while most people remain isolated from farm animals, for instance, productive forms of social learning can help vegetarianism, reducitarianism, and other dietary changes to spread across social networks in response to animal suffering. Here it's crucial to increase mutual trust and respect not necessarily for non-human animals, but for the environment and animal protectionists who urge us to withdraw support from agricultural systems that cause gratuitous suffering. And if anyone doesn't know here, factory farming of animals is god-awful terrible. It's probably the best reason not to eat meat. Because, I mean, I'm a meat eater, but it's like, if you look into factory farming, it's bad. Like, bad. So, yeah. Okay, so to the author's mind, a model of greater inclusivity and equality must emphasize mutual trust and respect as fundamental, along with how these attitudes are enabled by strategies other than integration. Given that trust and respect are central elements of our evolved moral minds, primed for social embedded reasoning, it's easy to see this as a friendly amendment to Kumar and Campbell's theory of moral progress. Yet the recommendations they make in the final chapters of the book for promoting progress on particular issues might look rather different. Okay, yeah. So yeah, exactly. Dojo, like, there are definitely arguments here about what counts as the right sort of rhetorical attack, because, you know, the gay rights was one thing, then the trans rights is slightly different for whatever it's worth. It's like, how do you actually, is it going to work the same or is it not? I don't know. Okay. Does moral progress have a liberal bias? An underlying theme of A Better Ape is that morality both shapes and is shaped by our natures. The authors are admirably nuanced on this issue. They don't ride roughshod over the is-ought gap by concluding that it's morally acceptable to follow our natural propensities, compared the early incarnations of evolutionary psychology, or at least its caricatures. For Kumar and Campbell, moral norms that have stood the test of time do have some claim to defensibility, but it can be overwritten. So unlike so-called eco-conservatives, Kumar and Campbell don't maintain that human nature highly constrains the shape and content of morality. We can become significantly more inclusive and fair, in part by reasoning with one another, drawing out principles and inconsistencies. Yet the authors don't embrace the evo-liberal idea that human nature can or should be thoroughly manipulated or bypassed with modern technology, capable of thrusting us into a post-human utopia where hatred, subordination, and international conflicts are coldly recognized as simply irrational. I don't trust a lot of tech as, this is, again, 2023, it's not that long ago, but the way tech is going, I'm trusting it less and less as I get older. Maybe I'm turning into a curmudgeon, or a worse curmudgeon than I was. So it's like, I don't trust the tech companies. I don't trust the technology. I mean, it's very cool stuff, but we need other voices in the way society is going at the moment. And I don't think technology is helping with this sort of progress that's talking here. Yeah, it is more difficult. It's a newer problem too. It's in some sense, I think the gay rights thing, it was okay. It was only one thing. I was like, okay, so you're exactly the same as me, except you like sleeping with different people. That's okay. Then the gender stuff, it's not a big ask. It's like, okay, just use they, them pronouns or something. But all of a sudden, it's you like sleeping with different people and I have to use gender pronouns. It's oh my God, the horror. I know, but it's just one or two more things, but people don't want to do shit. So it's crazy that people won't change pronouns, but it is a slightly bigger ask sometimes, but it's just so rare. I don't understand their complaints still. The Jewish says, give me a boy of 7, I will give you the man. They knew that if they were able to shape the foundational beliefs, they were able to shape everything built on top of those beliefs. So deprogramming someone who was born into a religion is different from someone adopted later in life. Yeah, again, you're talking strategy here. So it's yeah. And again, that's a question of how do you actually do the deprogramming at that point. Okay. Instead, Kumar and Campbell maintain that moral norms can change quite dramatically, but that progress is typically slow and incremental, influenced in various ways by human nature. Indeed, we can see the book as revealing that the evo-liberal and eco-conservative positions present a false dichotomy. Liberal moral progress is possible while being constrained by evolved moral minds. So we should distinguish two distinct claims that can come apart. One is an empirical claim about how malleable human nature is, highly or hardly malleable. The other is a normative claim about which direction that change should take, for example, liberal or conservative. In the end, Kumar and Campbell are roughly centrists on both fronts. They believe human nature is somewhat malleable, though the change is relatively slow, and that the direction of change should be generally progressive, though don't expect an argument for Marxism. Doge says, I'm not giving any just a bit of 7. Oh, yeah, that's one of those no comments there, Dojo. It's yeah, don't. It's fair. Nevertheless, the model of moral progress in A Better Ape is openly liberal. Kumar and Campbell contend that, quote, reality has an inherent progressive bias, end quote, playing on one of Stephen Colbert's lines at the 2006 White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, progressive is operationalized here as greater inclusivity and equality, but these seem to be characteristically liberal values. Readers are left with the impression that the model promotes liberal, not conservative progress. At any rate, we can ask whether it does, and there are reasons to be doubtful. Greater inclusivity and equality do seem characteristically progressive. Liberals fight for greater acceptance and better treatment of marginalized groups, including gay people, ethnic minorities, atheists, people with disabilities, and non-human animals. On other issues, however, conservatives can be seen as seeking expansion of the moral circle. Some issues in bioethics are key examples. Conservatives believe that we should accord greater moral status to human embryos growing in petri dishes and in the wombs of women who intend to abort them. As I write this, Republican-controlled legislatures in the United States are beginning to not only ban abortions, but to treat the fetus as a full person in the eyes of the law. In the state of Georgia, fetuses growing in utero now have the right to child support, are factored into population counts, and qualify parents for relevant tax credits. I think some of this got overturned, but like this was a big deal because it's like someone was if you have a fetus, and that counts as a person, do you get a tax break like you have a kid? Do you get to ride in the they have like lanes on our highways for like carpooling? You have multiple people, so if you have a person in your stomach, do you get to drive in the carpool lane? So yeah. What the fuck population count? That's absurd. Yes, this was absolutely nuts. But like I said, this is from 2023, and I think some of this got overturned because it was completely nuts. But like, yeah, this is what happened. The conservatives in Georgia said, well, okay, a fetus is a person, and so abortion, therefore you're killing a person, and it is murder. And so then it's like, well, people were claiming child support on fetuses. It's like, yeah, they were like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant, now the state needs to give me a tax break. Yeah, I could get the child support bid for the mother, but else, yeah, my fetus voted. Exactly. Like, this was not well thought through. So, like, yeah. But, like, this is of the time. I don't know exactly what happened in Georgia, but, like, yeah, this was definitely a thing. It was very weird. And, that would be a thing. Like, people were getting pulled over and saying, hey, there's more than one person in the car. And the cops are like, what are you talking about? You're in the, the carpool lane. It's like, no, I've got a kid. They're like, what kid? It's like, okay, this is nuts. So it's like, yeah. Okay, conservative expansions of the moral circle can also be seen in arguments over euthanasia. Patients in a persistent vegetative state can have massive brain damage that affords only reflexive responses to stimuli, yet many conservatives reject arguments that these patients have essentially died and are no longer full persons. Yeah, and oh god. What was that story? There was a brain dead woman that they kept alive for like 6 months because she had a kid. She was pregnant at the time when something happened. And so they kept this body going just as an incubator for the baby. And it was really fucked up. So yeah. Fetus with Diabetes, your new song? Nice, Dojo. Okay. Conservative inclusivity and equality are also visible in more recent movements. Some poor and working class whites in America and other countries around the world have raised concerns about reverse racism and discrimination against men. Some of these calls for greater inclusivity or equality for whites and men might be disingenuous attempts to ruffle liberal feathers, but many seem to be sincere, even if misguided. Populist politicians, rather than being the catalyst of such discontent, seem to be capitalizing on it. Calls for viewpoint diversity also seem to evoke the ethics of inclusivity and equality. Opponents of cancel culture decry its most punitive forms as oppressive. Proponents of free speech insist on allowing more rather than fewer voices to be heard on college campuses. Jonathan Haidt and his collaborators urge greater political diversity in social science and academia generally. Since higher education is predominantly liberal, they contend that greater integration would allow more conservative researchers to bring their particular knowledge to the table. The proposal fits Kumar Campbell's model quite well. Viper says the Georgia Department of Public Safety, DPS, updated its requirements. The previous requirement, 2 or more living and not pre-infant persons, was changed to allow pregnant drivers to use the HOV lanes as the fetus is recognized as a person. Yeah, and it was Adriana Smith, horrible story. Yeah, so they had, it was very fucking weird. Now, I don't have any problem with giving pregnant women extra driving lanes. That's fine by me. But, the whole concept of, declaring a potential fetus as a person or just something like that, it's weird. That the government is hey, let me get your birth, let me do a pregnancy test on you to see if you get a ticket or not. Weird. Yeah, F3, it's so many weird legal shit because there's no way they actually give a shit about the baby. It just isn't. It's usually about control. And so it's controlling people in a new way. And then these are all the weird implications that they never thought through because it's just kind of nuts. Anyway. Yeah. It makes it's. Yeah, I don't like I can't explain what they were thinking other than that they weren't. They just wanted to have new levers of control to use over people, and then these were the unexpected consequences. Okay. These examples aren't necessarily meant to raise an objection to a better ape. Ideological homogeneity can be unhealthy, cancel culture can get out of hand, and there are real biases against conservatism among academics and other elites. Teaching in Alabama has made me more aware of the implicit biases and outright bigotry that some Northerners direct towards Southerners, including the knee-jerk assumptions that a Southern drawl betrays a lack of education. My brother married a Jersey girl. I'm from New York, and he married a girl from Jersey. And her family is from the Jersey Shore, and they have a Jersey Shore accent, like on the TV show. And I will swear, I was like, it does have that connotation of like these idiots from the Jersey Shore, but their family is like plenty smart. So it's just funny that for me to have a Jersey Shore accent, but them having like engineering discussions about stuff in a Jersey Shore accent. And I was like, I had to get over that. It was funny though. Yeah, it's to control women. Yep. Okay. Energy says, well, I don't know about the specific legal implications. I'm referred to him. I'm personally pro-life because I believe fetus has the potential of becoming a rational agent, which I believe it makes terminating pregnancies unless the mother's life in danger, of course, unjustified in your opinion. Yeah, I mean, that is the opinion. Okay. It's the problem here is the laws in the U.S. are not well thought out. So it's like, you can be pro-life, that's fine. But like, the difficulty here is that this was not a well thought out a legal position. And that's really the mess here. And so like, that's part of the issue. So yeah, I mean, the legal thing was basically to control women, as Ra was saying. It's not, they're not really doing much protection for fetuses. Like, they just aren't. So it'd be one thing if they actually were supporting pregnant mothers here in the U.S., but they're not doing that. So, yeah. Okay. Some of the vitriol boils over into calls for blanket boycotts of all southern states, including the marginalized people who live there. In response to restrictions on abortion, one meme circulating on social... Look at this guy. This guy's even, referencing memes. That's great. Circulating on social media lists particular states in the South, and employers do not go to their colleges, do not visit their tourist attractions, do not buy their products, do not attend their athletic events. Gorgie Gardner drew my attention to this one. Talk about exclusion. I'm not buying any more bourbon. And someone criticized me because there was no more bourbon from Kentucky. Like, I'm not supporting their industry. I'm going to buy local alcohol or international stuff. And someone was like, well, what about the... There's a black owned and run bourbon thing. Who was the original brewmaster? What's the word? I'm losing words now. So it happens when I get tired. But of Jack Daniels, he was a black guy. So there was a black guy running the distilling process at Jack Daniels, and basically Jack made all the money. But like, this guy got well known, and now there is a bourbon brand or a whiskey brand under that guy's name, and it supports is like black owned and run, I think. So the guy was like, well, would you support that one? I was like, yeah, that's the exception. But I was like, I'm not, like, they've screwed over the rest of the country with like their policies. It's like, I'm not giving them any of my money, but like, yeah, I will make carve outs. I'm not going to be like blanket on, nothing from that part of the country, but I'm not going to just buy me any Jack anymore. Not that I ever did, but like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, fuck them. Like, I'll go get something from Canada. I'll go get like some Crown Royal, even though apparently the owner of Crown Royal kind of sucks too. Okay. So the point is not that Kumar and Campbell's evolutionary model of moral progress must be incorrect because it leads to defending men's rights and white plight. Rather, the point is that it's not so clear that inclusivity has a progressive bias. Far-left readers might see these conservative applications of the model as a cutting critique, a reductio ad absurdum. I'm more inclined to see it as a way for the model to be more moderate and flexible. So perhaps this too is merely a friendly amendment that renders the model unbiased towards a certain political ideology. However, these considerations raise another concern about the limited work that notions like inclusivity and equality can do for moral progress theory. Maple whiskey, exactly. Nathan Nearest Green, thank you, Vipers. Yeah, and so yeah, Nathan Green whiskey. Uncle Nearest, yeah. So like, I was like, I'm not giving Kentucky any more of my money, but like, if I am going to, those will be the people that I will ask for. Now, I'm not like going to be militant about this. I'm not going to be so, but I'm not going to be buying anything. Like I might buy a bottle of bourbon one of these days, but now I'm going to buy, whatever a New York brand or an international brand the bourbon equivalent is, because bourbon is like champagne. It's a protected term and can only be used if it's actually from that area. So no official bourbon for me, unless if it's Uncle Nearest. Okay. How much more of this do we got? Okay, there we go. Not a page and a half, 2 pages. Getting a little bit late in the night for me. My voice is going. And anyway, I like Scotch better, so Scotch comes from Scotland, mostly. Although I'm not against Japanese whiskey either. Anyhow, limitations of inclusivity and equality. Boo! What do you mean, boo? Greater inclusivity and equality are prominent forms of moral progress. Scotland, yeah. Exactly. Scotland, exactly. Greater inclusivity and equality are prominent forms of moral progress from many political perspectives, but they might not explain as much as we'd like. Haight implores us to emphasize that there's more to morality than harm and fairness. We should likewise keep in mind that there is more to moral progress than inclusivity and equality. Some other forms of moral progress are well known, such as proper demoralization of practices like premarital sex and charging interest on loans. Of course, Kumar and Campbell do not intend to issue a definitive theory of the evolution of moral progress, yet they do hold a special place for inclusivity and equality when they write that moral progress and regress unfold largely depending on how well or how poorly humans cope with problems of exclusion and inequality. On some topics, however, other forms of progress might be more fundamental or even in tension with inclusivity and equality. Yeah, I mean, I should go get some Irish whiskey too. I think that's what Vipers is yelling at me about. I would, this is one of those like pie in the sky things I should do. I should just go on like a whiskey tour. I do want to go on a whiskey tour one of these days, but at the moment, it's seeming a little bit far away. One of these days. Okay. Consider greater liberty or autonomy of individuals who are already within the moral circle. Think about progress on the right to die, that is, for example, physician-assisted death, decriminalizing marijuana or psilocybin, and abortion rights. Inequality might be part of the story in these cases. Some patients have the right to life-sustaining treatments, while others lack the right to life-ending treatments. Drug laws unfairly target marginalized communities, and abortion restrictions do subordinate women, especially poor women. However, in these debates, liberal progress requires greater liberty for all, including white men and rich women who also deserve access to abortion and healing plants. So we can't fully account for progress in terms of dehumanization and subordination. Sometimes liberty even cuts against inclusivity and equality. As we saw with abortion, for example, increased liberty for women might require excluding fetuses from the moral circle. Another form of moral progress not captured by inclusivity and equality is what we might call communitarian. As Kumar and Campbell recognize in the discussion of religious institutions, cultural identities provide a deep sense of belonging, meaning, and purpose. Indeed, for sapiens, a good life arises from a variety of identities that facilitate local connections to family, friends, and community, which provide both meaning and social support. Viper says, neither America nor Scotland have stories like this. Dublin whiskey fire. All right, maybe I'll get to that. Well, I can take a look at that right now. Why? What did you guys do? Did you burn down half of Dublin or something? Because you were like looking at whiskey? Yeah. And on the night of 18 June 1875, a fire broke out on a whiskey storehouse in the Liberties area of Dublin. The escaped whiskey formed a burning river 6 inches deep that said to have flowed as far as Coombe, destroying 35 houses and killing several pigs. Well, note there were no human fatalities as a direct result of the fire or flood. 13 people died of alcohol poisoning after drinking the stream of whiskey, which was undiluted cask strength. Total property damage was estimated over 100,000 pounds, of which the whiskey loss constituted 54,000. Last paragraph of the article. All right, people living in the area were first alerted to the fire by the sounds of squealing pigs by nearby livestock pens that had caught fire, and this is said to have contributed to a surprisingly rapid evacuation, which was later commended by members of emergency services, as well as the Lord Mayor of Dublin at the time, Peter Paul McSwiney. The pigs helped out. He is quoted as saying, quote, "The time given for escape in some places during the progress of the fire was so short, I was apprehensive that some people should be left in danger in the garrets and cellars of the district, but on inquiry I was happy to learn that no life was lost during the great conflagration. During the evacuation, many people gathered by the streams of whiskey, filling any vessel that had at hand with substance. Caps, porgers, and other vessels were all gathered to collect the burning liquid, resulting in 24 hospitalizations due to alcohol poisoning and 13 subsequent fatalities." Yeah. Yep, sounds about right. Like, free liquor, let me go drink it. It's like, yeah, but you don't know what you're drinking anymore. Yep. Yeah, cask strength tends to be stronger. Like the alcohol content goes down over time. So they were saying it was because this was stuff that needed to sit for longer and the alcohol content needed to go down. This was like super strong whiskey. Filling your hat with burning whiskey? Exactly, Vipers. This is the way to do it. Okay, so there's communitarianism is something. So you want a deep sense of belonging and purpose. Okay, inclusivity and equality call on us to include more people and creatures in our sphere of moral concern and to treat them as equals, yet many communitarian values involve exclusivity in the form of partiality. Part of what it is to be a good friend, mother, or Muslim, for instance, is to invest more time, money, and resources into the people who form those particular relationships and communities. Indeed, as we've seen, greater inclusivity and equality are best promoted and sustained by building relationships of love and mutual respect with people who are not currently part of one's inner circle. Yet we are finite creatures who cannot necessarily extend the requisite time, empathy, and mental energy to everyone without costs to other relationships. These conflicts are not superficial. Some improvements in inclusivity and equality might involve merely negative duties, which demand only that one refrain from treating others poorly. Advancements in civil and gay rights have required that people of color be allowed to vote and that same-sex couples be allowed to marry. But greater inclusivity and equality also demand positive duties to provide certain goods or services to others, which can conflict with communitarian values. Paying higher taxes to reduce income inequality might mean fewer vacations with your family. Moving to more integrated neighborhoods could mean that your child attends an underfunded school. Protesting against abortion restrictions can preclude participate in your child's parent-teacher organization. Eating vegan can weaken a valued religious or cultural identity. International aid and trade may increase standards of living elsewhere while driving unemployment in one's own community. Morality requires sacrifice, of course, and I agree with Kumar and Campbell that it's fruitless to seek a complete ideal theory, but moral progress theory should be sensitive to the trade-offs among different values, particularly a theory that is avowedly pluralistic. Conclusion. We are a kind of ape. Although capable of sympathy, loyalty, trust, and respect, these attitudes can be restricted to certain individuals and groups in ways that produce prejudice, tribalism, discrimination, subjugation, inequality, and violence. How can we, like the animals in Zootopia, live together peacefully and justly? A Better Ape provides us with a rough playbook of answers rooted in the long history of evolution, a truly impressive feat. The book's admirably balanced analysis leaves us with a cautious optimism about the ability of humans to tackle the great social problems of the 21st century and beyond. The brain is a surprisingly flexible organ. Neuroplasticity enables adult stroke patients to regain movement and patients with amputated arms to learn how to play the guitar with their feet. Even if our evolved moral minds are plastic, Kumar and Campbell seem to recognize that there is a point at which bending them will break, especially in the short or medium term. Our minds are less like plastic under a blowtorch, more like marble that can be shaped with skill and patience. We must work with the materials we have. To promote further theorizing, I've emphasized the limitations of integration and of inclusivity and equality. As a deeply social and cultural species, human flourishing requires friendship, partiality, tight-knit communities, and autonomy to pursue different cultural conceptions of the good life and forms of exclusivity and hierarchy. Such values grounded in liberty and community will eventually run up against greater inclusivity and equality. Exactly when and how is unclear. But moral progress theory would do well to develop some answers. Even if Kumar Campbell's playbook requires much revision and expansion, there is reason for hope that we are capable of being ever better apes who share this beautiful planet without destroying it. Okay, and that's it for this paper. And as always, we get to rate the paper now. If any of you guys are still here, feel free to spam some of the emotes you see in chat. The emotes all have a sort of meaning to them. So if you thought this paper was fun and made your brain dance, give you some fun ideas, give it a brain dance. Spelling and capitalization do count here. Nog Scream for existential or artistic drama. Nog Oro for deeper ancient ideas. Nog Knife for slicing and dicing arguments. Nog Navel for navel gazing only for academics. Nog Turd if you thought this was all style no substance, still poop underneath. And Nog Grapes for big claims that shrivel up. You can also use the global vote yay and vote nay of Twitch, or my vote meh for something that means in the middle. Note, I do calculate an overall score. Anything in the green makes the score goes up. Anything in the red makes the score goes down, and the vote meh makes it go to the middle. Energy said knife, grapes, and a meh. Banana gave it a poop and a grapes. Dojo gave it a knife. Thank you for the ratings. Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's like they criticized this other paper and they suggested some ways to go. They didn't do, they weren't like, oh no, like, it is a review paper in some sense. It is a response paper. So they didn't go like hardcore into like some other view, which is kind of fair. But yeah, it's like, I'm not like hating on it, but it's like to keep in mind, this is a response kind of a review paper of this book. Well, I said brain dance, yeah, and a mat. Yeah, I mean, I think this is fair. Energy says, main criticism I have of the paper is I didn't really dive into the mathematics all that much. And that's fair. Yo, Evolve Yourself, how you doing? You're just finishing up. I mean, my brain's starting to go at this point. This was a slightly dense paper, so it's like, yeah. Ethicity gave it a knife, yeah. I mean, but like they did present their arguments, and yeah, if you were looking for some meta ethics, sure. I mean, you can say they should have covered that. That's fair. Yeah, thank you, Ra, for the rating. Thank you, F. Yeah, if any of us don't know my buddy Agni or Agni, Evolve Yourself TV, he is also another philosopher. He's generally doing meditation content nowadays, although he does do his day job is a chess instructor, so you can like talk chess over there too. But he's doing meditation, and he's trying to be a bit more holistic about what makes a human. Got to get your everything working together to be the right sort of, to get yourself like right. So yeah, go head over there if you don't know our buddy Evolve Yourself. But like he has masters in philosophy, teaches chess, but like he's looking to make your life better. What's up, Eggs Walker? 69, nice. But yeah, so what am I gonna say about this? I thought it was okay. Thanks for kind words. Oh, dude, you deserve it. What do I say? You were lurking. You gave it a navel. That's cool. Dory says, the more common criticism of A Better Ape is conflating evolutionary fitness for positive progress. The book is exceedingly hand-wavy. Okay. And he says, this Sunday, can we maybe get to the quantum physics related paper if we start reading early? I'll take a look. Yeah. Well, no, Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. So, I may do a modified stream on Sunday because I'll probably be watching the Super Bowl. But, yeah. I'll think about it. That wasn't like, it's like 17 pages, but like it looked within the realm of doability. So yeah. Oh no, it was 14. No. What was that one? Where was that? That was 14 pages. Was the mind one. Let me go take a look. Where did I do with that? Do I still have it? Did I lose it? Oh, dagnabbit. you're in between there. Yeah. So, I mean, that's fine. Okay, I didn't know that about the book, though, Dojo. Where is that link? Did I have it or did I lose it already? Energy, can you throw the link in Discord? Because I don't know what happened. Oh, here it is. How long is this? 17 and it's dense. This is going to be energy. This is going to be really rough is the issue. Like, this is a little bit long. I know you like this stuff, but this would be real rough on me. I mean, I'll consider it. Because it's just I have to go really fast to get through it before I lose my mind. And the problem is I do start losing my mind around this time. We're going up on 2 hours of reading, 3 hours of streaming, and I just can't. But like, yeah. Bananas is giving generic lib paper. They also always admit socialist takes on it. Fair. Edgewalker says it's late. I have a lot of questions for me, but I reckon I will save them for next time. I stream Sundays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. I mean, feel free to ask questions. I may answer them not to your full satisfaction at the moment, but like, yeah. What am I going to say about this? I mean, this was an okay paper. It was kind of a response paper. It was doing the like knife stuff. Like, it was really just giving some arguments and stuff like that. I mean, I'm also on the Nog naval side. That was kind of how I was going. And it was like, I didn't think it was that bad. It was, we're going to get a split between vote. You got this, don't give up. Oh, don't worry about that, Galaxy. But like, it's, so I think I'm like kind of in this split area too. Like that. Yeah, War Drinker also navel gazing as well. Yeah, so it's like this kind of where I'm feeling about. But I'm not kidding. I do like I can just feel my brain start to collapse, and it's like I'm okay, but like I'm not very clever.